All right, what is going on, guys? It is time for another episode of the Chasing Waypoints podcast. And, well, we've got another in the Bivouac for you guys this week. Special guest. Been waiting to get him on the show for a little bit. I feel like the music is too quiet. Should we turn the music a little bit? You know, it adds to the to that party, like, let's get it going. All right, let's start that over again. All right, so this time we are in the Bivouac with none other than Matt Sutherland for this week's episode number 70. Uh-oh. 30 more and we're at 100. Time to start playing or planning that 100th episode. What should we do? So much going on. So much they could be doing. I'm sure we'll figure it out. Maybe a rally get together out of the desert, or maybe we'll pick the local hotspot, Attitude Brewing or something like that. Pick a brewery for a self-guided tour, a self-guided flight of adult beverages, that is, or whatnot. I don't know. We'll figure it out. So anyway, all right. So this week we've got Matt Sutherland that's going to be joining us in the Bivouac. We'll be talking a little bit about his racing experience, and fresh off of that W at the NORRA 1000 or the Mexican 1000 just about a week or so ago. I think he's still in California out here enjoying the sun. Hailing from Canada, I believe, but we'll touch base on all of that fun stuff and talk a little bit about his racing career, how he got started in rally, and of course, some of the rallies that he's done around the world. So got a lot of stuff in store for you guys on this episode, and make sure we get all the questions answered, get everything, and talk about rally adventures. So with that being said, let's see if we have got him on the line. But before we do that, let's turn down the party a little bit. Make sure it's, crisp, clear audio for everybody. Man, can't wait. Got, I don't know. Kind of drying this here. We're sending them the link here in just a second. But yeah, so this week, you guys, this is Monday, so we're recording it live and going to be airing it live, so you guys can listen to this on your commute to work, or for the overachievers, you can listen to this tonight. But basically, we are getting ready for the first Baja Rally event coming up. It's going to be a joint venture, a kind of a training with American Rally Originals as a fundraiser. Going to be located down in San Quintin. At the Mission Santa Maria Hotel. That's going to be this weekend. We got Friday registration with a couple of short stages, Saturday one stage, Sunday another stage. So we'll be down there talking rally, working with everybody, and yeah, having some fun, enjoying everybody doing their bench racing after the stages, and learning some things, and we'll be keeping track on the rally comp side of things, making sure everybody's not riding off into the sunset. At least they are, but for the predetermined amount of time, we don't want people scattered across the desert. That's the cool thing about the rally comp, that we're able to track and send messages like stop, turn around, go to note. There's a lot of really cool things with that. So it's really, really a handy device for rally tracking and waypoint management. That's made here in the U.S. by none other than Mike Johnson and the Rally Comp team. So very, very stoked to be back down in Baja and enjoying the time down there. Be taking the girlfriend, exposing her to some of the rally raid happenings. I don't know. The ambiance, the bivouac, all of that fun stuff. So looking forward to it. I know it's going to be a lot of fun. Got a lot of, I saw the entry list. I saw a few familiar names in there, and I'm going to get to put names to faces on some of the other guys. So absolutely stoked for that one. We've got a couple of things that we are working on, including coming up for this coming month. We're going to welcome our first, should we say sponsor? Powered by, I don't know. We'll figure it out, but we're happy to announce that Moscomoto is going to be joining us for this next month as part of a sponsor and supporter of the Chasing Waypoints podcast and the Waypoint Wednesdays live stream. So we've got some of their gear coming in, some of the bags. We've already got them. We've already been testing them and learning the ins and outs of them. We've talked about stopping strap abuse with the bags. So I learned a very big lesson with how to set up the bags, the backcountry panniers that I got, the staggered set for the 850. There were some things that I definitely needed to learn, and I did so out at the Revzilla Get On ADV Fest. So looking forward to that one. We are actually talking with Pete Day from Moscow Moto. We're going to be doing it in the Bivouac with him, and then we're going to follow that up also a couple episodes down the road with talking about some apparel design and things that they've done in getting and designing and creating their line of apparel as well. So I'm super excited for that to begin. We'll get you guys some more information on what to expect on that side of it. But with that being said, let's see if we've got Matt on the line. Give me just. All right, Matt, you there?
I am, Victor. How's it going?
Good. You know, it's Monday. We survived.
Yes, we did. Unfortunately, I'm back in Vancouver, and the weather isn't the best. So I'm wishing I was still down in the desert, but we can't have sunshine all the time.
I saw you had a run-in with the scorpion in Borrego.
Yeah, those big scorpions. Have you ever been to Borrego?
A couple of times, and every time I go, I'm like, I got to go see the scorpion. I never see it.
Yeah, no, it's out there hiding in the desert. So
nice.
It's they've got all sorts of weird stuff hiding out there in the desert. But you run across some interesting things and interesting people you find out in the desert.
Yeah.
So makes it exciting.
Yeah, and not too many people. I've met one person from that town, and that's it. And they seem pretty well. He's normal, but he told me the stories, and yeah, that's there's some characters.
Yeah, no, it was my first time ever going. No, I'd actually love to go back there with a bike. It'd be you could make some great road books through that area because you can get up into the mountains, into sort of the foresty stuff, and yeah, it's I'll have to go back and do some exploring.
Oh yeah. I know a couple of roads. I'm going to leave the name out of it, but we ended up almost getting kicked out of an Indian reservation, but found the most amazing forest road. Like it's like a fire road, barely touched. I mean, it was just amazing. Yeah. And we had the tribal police waiting for us on the other side.
Yeah. We get a lot of that up here in British Columbia as well. There's a lot of native land, and I obviously have the tour company, and we take people into all the backcountry areas. And so, yeah, I've had to go in advance and ask for permission and make sure we're allowed to ride on there and stuff like that. Because, if you get caught in the wrong spot, you can get in some pretty big trouble.
Okay, so you guys have, or up there they have basically the same thing down here. The whole private property, some kind of Bureau of Land Management that's kind of controlling things.
Yep, yeah, exactly. And they've got it's sort of self-governed within itself. So some are more lenient to others with letting people on their land. So you just got to do the right thing and give them a call ahead of time, or send them an email, or usually. Someone who knows someone, you can get permission to ride through there. But if you do get permission, you can really get into some pretty crazy backcountry areas. So it's it's always worth at least asking the question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I mean, what's the worst that can happen? They say no, but the best is they say yes, and you go on this crazy trail and all. So
yeah, exactly.
Tell me about the tour company. How long have you been running that, and what are the tours like? What do you guys do?
So I started that in 2019. I used to do a lot of adventure riding throughout British Columbia, sort of by myself. And British Columbia, it's so different to the US just because there's so much open land to explore, and there's a lot of logging up here. So there's a lot of old decommissioned logging roads and old horse trails and all sorts of stuff up in the mountains, and you can literally go anywhere. So I'd find myself out there, riding around, come to these great areas, and I never had anyone to share it with. And being from Australia originally myself, I always thought it would be a great idea to start up a business where I could take people out into these areas and actually, allow them to explore British Columbia on a motorcycle and go to these areas that not many people go to. So I I bit the bullet in 2018 and started getting it all set up. We shot a promo video, and then I launched the business in 2019. So is what we do. I've got a bunch of KTM 1090 and 790 bikes, and we essentially take people on these backcountry expeditions, all with a sport truck, on multi-day trips all through Canada. I can put together custom trips for groups. I've had that a few times, where I'll give them a bunch of options of what we can do, and I'll put it all together in a package, or we've got our set tours as well. But the unique thing about riding up here is it's not just about the riding. It's almost like taking a step back in time. We stay at all these old backcountry fishing lodges and ranches, and so there's no camping, which is kind of a good thing because there's a lot of bears around. But it's the experience you get, even from just meeting the people at these places, is pretty unique. And we have rest days, which we say rest days are the best days, where we can go out and we can go down and view the grizzly bears eating salmon on the river, or one of the guys who owns one of the ranches has a 12-seater helicopter. So we can, pass our hat around, chip in for gas, and we can get a private trip up in the helicopter. So we've gone down and chased moose through ponds and landed on mountains and done all sorts of stuff. Or we just go out and ride some of the local terrain, depending on the skill level. I've had groups that are fairly new to adventure riding, and I've had some pretty experienced groups. So we can get into some pretty gnarly stuff, which is good. Nice.
So yeah, that's cool. So that's what I was going to ask. So you can kind of tailor it to the kind of rider that's coming.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've had some where, you'll have different skill levels throughout the group, but we can generally split them up. So we got with every tour, over 4 guests, we'll have 2 riders and a support truck. And the good thing about that is you don't have to carry all your luggage or any of that stuff. Everything's in the truck. We got spare parts. It's all taken care of. And then we have the ability to split up. So, one half the group can go do an easier, more scenic route, and the other half of the group can go do some big bike hard enduro. Yeah,
it's still beyond me on that.
They usually regret it about an hour in, but it's pretty rewarding at the end of the day.
Yeah, nice. See, and that's the thing is, I always worry when it's big bike hard enduro. When anything hard enduro, I always worry about, because I just imagine logs and rocks and looking at this hill, going, "You're supposed to go up that?"
Yeah, well, it's funny actually. You get a lot of people, and they sort of, they're like, "Oh, I can ride anything. I can do this and that." And you take them onto some of these trails, and you just see the life leave their body. They get brought back down to earth pretty quick. But no, at the end of the day, we all get out and help each other, and there's some pretty crazy hill climbs and stuff like that we can get into. So, it's all about working together and getting through it. And at the end of the day, when you're sitting around the campfire, it's pretty rewarding. So.
Yeah, I can only imagine, especially when you're pushing yourself, like, I don't know, I'm going to make that hill, but.
Yeah, exactly. And, most of them are on my rental bikes anyway. So it's, makes it a little bit easier for them if they don't have to bang up their bike.
Yeah. That's always kind of, so, and so I guess you got a pretty good fleet going, right? So you said 1090s and 790s?
Yeah, 1090s and 790s. I'm working on selling off the 1090s. I'll probably keep mine. Just because I know it's kind of a cool bike. It's good fun. And then we'll all be 790 and 890s. It's just easier for parts and all that stuff. So,
gotcha.
But then is what we're doing now is my buddy Aaron, he owns Marshall Lake Moto Camp. and he's got a fleet of 350s, 450s, 500s with long-range tanks. Okay. So what we're doing now is we might go ride the adventure bikes for 5 or 6 days, and then we'll come to his private cabin up in the mountains, and we'll park the adventure bikes, and we'll jump on the smaller bikes for a couple of days. And then we'll go ride some, a lot smaller trails and get up into the legal alpine areas and get into the forest. And that way you sort of see a whole different side to what you see on the adventure bike. So, it ticks all the boxes, really. And when I set it up, I didn't want it to be this crazy adventure. I didn't want it to be soft, like, super easy. I've heard of tour companies that have like speed limits and all that stuff. I definitely didn't want to be like that, but I didn't want guys coming in at, after dark, exhausted every day. So, it stands up at 9 a.m. after a good breakfast, try and finish by 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And up here in summer, it's light till 9:30, 10. Mm-hmm. So you got the whole afternoon just to relax and fish and, do whatever you like.
Yeah, proper vacation.
Yeah, exactly. It's sort of an all-encompassing trip. And, it's, I just always thought, what would I want if I went to do a trip? And I've sort of based it around that. And, everyone's loved it so far. COVID kind of put the brakes on things, but this year I've been getting a ton of people reaching out. I was sort of on the fence whether I'd go fully back into it this year or not, but it's looking like now that we're going to be running a lot of trips this year. So.
Nice. So what does the calendar look like? I mean, when's the best time to get up there and
June through September is best. Okay. At the start of June, you've still usually got snow in the higher elevations. So we can't access everything then, but you get these, great stunning backdrops with snow-covered mountains and everything. July, August is prime time. July, you get all the wildflowers blooming in the backcountry, and it's pretty stunning. And in September's good as well. You do have a higher chance of rain, but usually we can sort of get around that depending on where the rain is. We'll just adjust the itinerary. But then you get all the fall colors and, so, there's not really a bad time to come between June and September, but it just depends what you're after. And obviously with with things like wildlife viewing, like seeing the bears, you want to come at certain times of the year for that as well. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, I don't know that I want to meet them. I'd prefer not to do a meet and greet.
Honestly, you're guaranteed to see. It's funny, people come like, "Oh, are we going to see a bear?" And I just sort of laugh. I'm like, "Oh, buddy, you're in for it." Yeah. And bears aren't the worst. The moose are the one you need to be careful of.
Really?
Those things are nasty. Yeah, they're bigger than a horse, and if you get one in a bad mood, especially late in the season, they got no problem
chasing you.
Trying to show you who's boss.
So. Okay. So, all right. So watch out for the mooses.
Yeah.
Nice. And so let's see. So cool. So, okay. So summer months is really the time to get up there and really that middle of summer. And do you run tours every week, or how would we figure out when?
No. So I got a website. It's mvmadventures.com, and also on the Instagram. This year, because I wasn't sure how it was going to play out, I haven't got any set tour dates as of yet. I'm sort of working on that at the minute now that I just got back from California. But honestly, the best thing to do is get a group of buddies together, reach out to me, and I can give you all the options. Once you know roughly how many days you can go for, I can lay everything out, and you can literally just go through the list and just pick, yep, I want to do this, that sounds good. Yep, we want to go to Marshall Lake and ride the smaller bikes for a couple of days, and then I can put it all together, and it actually works out better cost-wise too. So,
yeah.
But it's it's something I definitely recommend. It's not your average tour, and it suits all skill levels. And if you've never been to Canada, it is just amazing. And like I said, we can ride from 4 hours north of where I am in Vancouver. Mm-hmm. You can get all the way to Alaska without touching pavement.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I can't go 6 miles without a locked gate here.
There's no gates up here. No gates, no nothing, just wide open wilderness.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm on the website right now and just checking out some of the photos you guys got, and wow.
Yeah.
This is
no, that's good. And we're gonna be shooting. So I got Joey Evans. He's a KTM ambassador for us in South Africa. He's coming over in July, and we're actually going to do the KTM Adventure Week together, and we're going to document the whole thing. So we'll put that up online, and that should showcase a lot of what British Columbia's got to offer, and that should be good as well. So.
Oh man, this year's packed already, but I think I'll probably be joining you up there for. This is so rad.
Yeah, no, it's great, and it's all I have my proper work in construction is what I generally do, but the tour thing it's my way to pay for my racing as well. Mm-hmm. So, it's a good way to offer people a great experience, and then in return it allows me to go all over the world and sort of do these different rides, which is pretty rewarding. So
yeah, I've been and then you were the fastest bike, picked up that speaking of racing, right? Here's the transition. Speaking of racing, fresh off of the win at the NORRA 1000, what was up with that? How was that one?
Yeah, it was great. I was pretty surprised and pretty happy with that. Going into it, so originally I had my heart set on Sonora Rally. Since I did it a couple of years ago, I've been back every year. Mm-hmm. So I was planning on going to Sonora. And once I found out that was cancelled, I saw Rally Moto Shop had posted online that the NORRA was going to all road books. So that caught my attention, and yes, what they've done in previous years, they've sort of had road books there if people want to use them, but most people, especially competitive guys, will just run off the GPS. Mm-hmm. So this year they brought in Jimmy Lewis, and he went over and looked over all the road books and verified them all, and they put in some tricky navigation, and they split the bikes and the cars up. Mm-hmm. So the bikes, in previous years, I've heard it's a lot of just wide open sort of car roads. Mm-hmm. And this year they actually sent us through a lot of old Baja courses and a lot of sort of more tricky terrain, more suited for the bikes, which was great. But, at the time I had no idea of that. And I just wanted to go and race road books. And so as soon as I heard that NORRA was doing it, I signed up, and yeah, that was that. And I was lucky enough, they did, everyone I spoke to said just how good of a race that was. That they call it the funnest race on earth, and it is super fun. It's low stress. It's really well ran. It's really well managed, and the routes that they gave us all this year was amazing. So, I went down there and raced that, and day one was sort of a lot of high speed stuff, and I thought hopefully the whole race isn't going to be like this, sort of could have done the first day on 10 notes. But then day two was an ass kicker. So we went through the San Felipe whoops for 60 miles and out into the salt flats, straight first thing in the morning. I tell you what, if you want to wake up, go and hit 60 miles of whoops at 6:15 in the morning. That'll wake you up. Especially on a rally bike, fully loaded with gas.
Yeah. So so that quick offshoot on that. So what bike were you? That was full rally bike.
Yeah, that was a full rally bike, 450 KTM rally. I got that from, I did the Africa race, which is the original Dakar route, from Monaco to Dakar in 2020 with Lyndon Poskett. So after that, I purchased the bike off him and brought it to the US. And yeah, I just wanted to get a lot more time on that bike and get familiar with it. In the future, I'd really love to Mali Moto, Africa race, and Dakar. So yeah, I brought the bike over and I've been riding that as much as I can. And so yeah, that's what I took down to NORRA. I went and met with AHM Suspension before the race, and we did a day of testing out in the desert and got the suspension set up exactly how I needed it for the race. I knew there was going to be some pretty rough terrain and whoops, and the bike was probably a little too soft for that beforehand. So that was one of the big differences, for the bike, was having the suspension set up. It made a huge difference, and I was able to make up, good amounts of time in the rough stuff because of that.
Yeah. So that brings an interesting question. So there, obviously we get a lot of listeners at Race Baja that might be transitioning, and a rally bike suspension setup. Obviously, the rally bike is a lot heavier.
Yes.
But how does it? I have a theory that the heavier bikes, while sometimes they're harder to ride at slower speeds, they're actually more stable at higher speeds.
Yeah, it's a super planted bike. It's linkage in the rear. I love it. I'm a big guy. I'm 6'6", and 200 pounds. So I can, even on a 500, I'm a little scrunched up. And so the rally bike size-wise actually suits me really well. So it's got cone valves in the front, track shock in the rear. And it is, I find the bike to be super stable, and I like it with a lot of gas in it. 3/4 to half is ideal for me. Because it just does, it feels a lot more planted. It sort of doesn't bounce around on top of the rocks, and in that high speed stuff, you can just sort of sit back and hide behind the screen and get those high speeds.
Yeah, let it do its thing. How fast is that down the dry lake bed?
I think my highest speed in NORRA was 176 kilometers an hour.
Let's see. For those playing the home game.
Yeah, you're going to have to do the math on that.
KPH. Google will help us on that.
Yeah, you can Google that.
Not bad. 109.3.
Okay, yeah.
That's on a heavy bike. That's setting a pace. I don't know that a race 450 will hit 109.
Yeah, no, it's definitely not on the rev limiter when it's going that speed. But it's only got a 49 tooth rear sprocket on it as well. So I'm sure you could get more out of it. But honestly, I don't think I want to or ever need to. Yeah. So it's definitely fast enough for me.
Well, I mean, yeah. So so it sounded like at NORRA the first day was about getting ground between you guys and the cars, if it was wide open like that.
Yeah. So the first day I was actually lucky. So the first day, the Corsair Seneson was what I raced in the Baja 1000. So I pre-ran it quite a bit. So I actually knew it. I knew what was coming up more or less, like when we went down the coast. The hardest thing in the morning was the fog. We had heavy fog and it was really wet on the coast. So, you're constantly trying to wipe your goggles and it gets pretty sort of rocky and a lot of ruts as you get down towards the coast. So it was just sort of managing with that and trying to keep your eyes on the track. And once we got further south, it cleared up a bit, and then we cut up over to Mike's Sky Ranch. I was lucky enough to get out in front by then and sort of had clean air. So I had some warnings from friends about watching out for animals near Mike's Sky Ranch. So I actually had two cougars or pumas or something run out in front of me. So yeah, so that was interesting for day one. And then from there we got back out onto the highway, went had a short section down towards San Felipe, and then went out onto, I think it's Diablo Lake Bed, and then from there sort of cut across towards Zoo Road and into San Felipe. So
yes, Zoo Road.
Yeah. Zoo Road.
And wait, you guys, okay, so that means that you guys probably took Zoo Road headed south.
Yes.
Okay, so I haven't been down that road, but that's the easy way.
Yeah.
Going
that's
north is horrible.
Yeah, no, it can get nasty. And there are a lot of hidden rocks and stuff like that. So, at that stage, I was, my main thing was just to get through the first 2 days, see where things are at, and then take it from there. So, I'm lucky enough to get some good advice off Justin Morgan and Kip Buse. They're pretty well versed down in Baja. So, yeah, everything they told me, worked out well. Going wide into the corners and looking around the corners sort of saved me a couple of times from some of the Baja traffic. So yeah, it was good. Got into San Felipe, everything went smooth, and then like I said, day two was was straight into it. So straight into the whoops, and early in the day, a lot of sort of hidden rocks. I think one guy ended up having a pretty bad accident. He had a compound fracture in his arm, and so it's never good to hear things like that. But that's we all take that risk doing this. So yeah, you just got to try and play it as smart as you can and get through each day.
Nice. Yeah, I mean San Felipe is very tricky, and like you said, I've seen it. And the thing is that sandy terrain does a really good job of hiding the rocks. And it only takes a couple of bikes or one vehicle to come through and knock it loose, and now it's in the middle of the road. Yeah.
The best advice I got was don't ride in the shadows. And sure enough, you'll be riding along and there'll be shadows sort of down the left-hand side of the track or something, and as you get closer, you'll just see huge rocks hiding in there that you couldn't see before. So, yeah.
That's
there's
good.
There's a hot tip for you that I'll pass along.
Yeah, that's my first thing to do now that I'm getting back on the bikes is to go do some training. I know I talked to Colton recently, and I definitely want to go up there and then do that, and then maybe do some of the Jimmy Lewis classes as well.
Yeah, Jimmy's got a lot of stuff on this year, I think. So
yeah,
it's the more practice you can get, the better. It's one of the biggest things I find is just getting out there and getting a lot of rides under you, especially before a race, just so you can get used to reading the terrain again. Feeling how the bike moves and reacts, in different situations, and just getting comfortable. So,
yeah, knowing what it's going to do or how it's kind of going to react, I guess, because you can't plan for everything, but
yeah, hope for the best, plan for the worst.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
So if you could pack your bags and rerun one of the stages that you just ran, which one would it be?
I'd do day two again, just because it was a little bit slower pace and it was a lot more physically demanding. Mm-hmm. After we went through San Felipe, we went out onto some salt flats down the coast, and then we had, I think it was about a 60-kilometre liaison down the coast. Then we got into sort of the sand track, which was super fun down the coast. We ended up going past the new Coco's Corner. Mm-hmm. It sort of starts to get a bit rocky and sort of loose, slippery rock down there. And then they sent us back up over the mountains to Guerrero Negro. So that was a lot of rough, rocky, double track, big cactus, quite hot. We had a couple of lake beds with some tricky nav, and yeah, that was a good day.
Yeah. Okay.
Not my best day performance-wise, but just a good, fun, solid day.
Yeah. Oh, and that's for a lot of people, I mean, that's, if you enjoy those stages, those are I think those are still the stages that you can make up the most time on.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. They can sort of make or break the race, I guess. So, yeah, I know. I just, in this race, in the past, I can tend to sort of get myself worked up and at times right over my head. But for NORRA, I just kind of, took it easy, still tried to keep a good pace, but more or less just enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
And it definitely paid off in the end doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
You can't be the hare the whole time. And
No. Although in this race, I was lucky enough to lead out 4 of the 5 days. So, that was kind of a blessing and a curse because I get clean air, but I've also got to figure out all the navigation, and then the guys behind can essentially follow my tracks if they're good. But you also see a lot of weird shit in Baja early in the morning when you're out front by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a lot of animals, deer, all sorts of things. So, you just got to ride smart. Ride what you can see.
Yeah, I was going to say, so you're really, really clearing the road. All the animals that were chilling overnight or whatever it is, anything and everything that's out there, you're going to be you're the warning.
Yeah. And it was on a couple of stages. I saw, like coming out of Guerrero Negro, it was super high speed, but it was all bushes coming in close to the track. And I backed off and just went down to sort of sat around 120 then, because it was, if something steps out, that's your race over. And, if you don't get to the finish line, then, you're not going to get a place at all. So, it can sort of be hard to do that, to play it smart. But yeah, it's just, in a long race like that, it's, you just got to expect the unexpected. And, it was a couple of times, I'd ride along and then I'd sort of get a flash in the corner of my eye and there'd be a herd of cattle like right off the track. And it's, if you see footprints and cow shit all over the course, then it definitely, puts a little bit of fear in you.
Yeah.
I don't know how those top Baja guys just keep it pinned. I don't know how they sit on the seats with those big balls they must be sitting on.
Well, it was interesting. We just did the episode with Colton, and he was talking about that down in, I think, if I remember, it was the San Ignacio area. And he very specifically said that at night, just absolutely pinned on the Honda. And out of the corner of his eye, he just saw this bull and it decided to go towards him, where you would think running scared away from the noise. This thing came at him. And I mean, he said he just barely missed the thing. And I'm going, well, luckily it didn't go that way, but that is something that ends a lot of things, and not just races.
Yeah, that's right. And it's happened to a lot of people, whether it's vehicles or animals. And, it happens a lot in Baja, and that's why it's one of the most dangerous places to race in the world. But, that is what makes Baja, and it's whoever's willing to, to risk it the most, I think generally comes out on top.
Yeah. Well, and then that's the whole thing also too. Not only that, but that's also the thing with rally is it's not who can hold it wide open the longest.
No, it's definitely not. And that's sort of what got me attracted to rally. It was, you're in a constant battle with your own mind, and the terrain. You're trying to read the road book and figure it out as you ride. I've had, multiple times where I'll lose some time in an area and then I get frustrated and then I try to ride like hell and then I end up missing more corners and making more mistakes because of that. So, you really got to just slow down and work on your navigation and you'll make up a hell of a lot more time by doing that than you will, trying trying to ride way over your head and make up time.
See how fast the bike will go from corner to corner.
yeah, exactly. So it's no, and I really enjoyed that actually leading out. I've only done it a couple of times in the past, so being able to do that, I was able to sort of work on a lot of things that I haven't been so good at in the past. One, in slowing down when I need to, and making sure I nail the navigation. Mm-hmm. I was lucky enough it paid off, and I only made a couple of mistakes throughout the race, but corrected them quite quick. Got back on track, and that was that.
Nice. And knocked it out. So, all right. I mean, we obviously talked a little bit, but how did this whole rally thing even get started? Like, what was your first rally, and what even made you want to get into it?
So I was up in BC riding with some buddies, and they were always talking about this NORRA rally and rally racing, and I didn't know a thing about rally. I didn't know what a road book was. I think Toby Price had just won Dakar, but I still had no idea on the whole navigation side of it or anything like that. And so there's a lot of Canadians that go down and race the Baja Rally and the Sonora Rally. So the group of guys I was hanging out with, they were always talking about it and how fun it was. And so I ended up agreeing that I'd go down and do it. But I didn't really want to go down there and try and figure it out during the race. So I went down, and Scott Bright was putting on a training in Pahrump. And it's funny to look back and see who was there, but, I think Mason was there. That was his first rally training. Justin Morgan was there. There was Wolfie, who'd just done Dakar. He was there as well. Yeah. So I went down and did that, and just learned the basics of rally and how to read a road book. And from there, it just kind of caught on like wildfire. I became addicted. Actually, I was meant to come back to Canada a few days after that, but I ended up staying down there, and I caught wind of some guy called Mike Johnson, some weird guy out in Texas who's putting on a free training with a computer. Mm-hmm. And I had no idea what the computer then was, which is, the rally cop. Mm-hmm. The guys were saying it'd be good to go out there and run some road books and, have proper waypoint verification and stuff like that. And to be honest, when I first heard of a waypoint, I thought it was something that they'd hide up in the sand. Because I heard someone talk about opening a waypoint. I was like, what? You ride up to it and you open it? So that's how little I knew about rally. Yeah. But I went out there, and Mike Johnson is a great guy. We're actually good friends now, so that's why I gave him a bit of shit there. But no, he's a good guy. He puts a lot into teaching people. He does it all for free. He does it all, out of pocket. I'm super appreciative that him and Scott and other people host events like that, because it really, it gives new guys an understanding of what rally is about. And rally is one of those things, once you get into it, it's hard to get out of. It's very, very addicting. And it's something you can go out and do by yourself. And, it's just a whole new game for racing and even riding. Mm-hmm. So I fell in love with it, and that was the end.
and here we are.
And here we are. A lot of time and money and fun later.
Yeah. And that's, and it's interesting that you mentioned that. Even just in your normal riding, even if it's a trail you've been down 100 times, the fact that a buddy or somebody else made the road book, you don't know what's coming, even though you know that trail anyway. Yeah,
exactly. And you can make road books for, I could make road books for friends up here, and they might think they know where they're going, but, you mix it up a little bit, and it just brings in this whole new aspect of sort of adventure, really. It's, you don't know where you're going or what's expected, and you're just figuring it out as you go. So yeah, no, it's a really cool thing, and I've seen, especially over the past few years, it's catching on like wildfire. There's so many people getting into it. It's just exploding. So it's, in another 5 years on now, it's going to be huge.
Yeah. No, and I agree with that. I mean, you can literally now, you don't even have to travel to Dakar or overseas to keep yourself entertained in rally on this side of the pond.
No, we got Rally Navigator, which is a great application you can download for your computer. Mm-hmm. You can make your own road books, and I found, doing that you learn a lot too, because you make a lot of mistakes, but because of that you learn. Mm-hmm. And then when you're in a race, you can sort of figure out whoever made the road book for that event. You can sort of figure out their style of thinking and how they make road books, so it can actually be very beneficial in a race. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the funny things was at the NORRA 1000, mm-hmm. There was a lot of uproar before the race because they decided to switch to all road book. There were a lot of guys saying, this is stupid, we don't want to do this, it's dumb, we get the road books in the morning, we don't have enough time, blah, blah, blah. By the end of it, everyone loved it. They're like, that was so cool, it made the race completely different, and they're all stoked to come back next year and ride road books.
Yeah.
So
made believers out of all of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. I mean, I'm thinking about this, and right, you put yourself into the shoes of it, and typically in a race, you have VCPs, right? If you're doing Baja, the Baja races, and VCPs, and it's a sprint race and all this, but it's a lot of it is survival. My section ends at, the LA Bay Junction. So that's your gratification doesn't come until you're within sight of that.
Yeah.
Where in rally, it's like, here's the next waypoint, and there's the next waypoint, and there's the next. So you get this gratification the whole time you're going down the route, and it's not just at the end of your section.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, it feels damn good when you're racing along and you nail the navigation, especially when it gets a bit tricky and you get through it all smoothly. It's like you're pumped. You're like, all right, let's go. But then it also has a reverse effect where if you mess it up, you can get really rattled in your own head, and you sort of got to, snap yourself out of it. So you can be your own worst enemy in rally. But the good thing about it is too, you don't necessarily have to be the fastest guy. Like, I'm not an incredibly fast guy, but you just, if you can navigate well and ride at a decent pace, then you'll get decent results. So
yeah, and that's a big big part of it. Where I think a lot of people maybe get lost in that you're not able to. Yeah, I found the waypoints. You get the waypoint, but what do you do if you get lost? Is that I think one of the biggest things, and that's what. What's your routine if you get to where you think the waypoint is supposed to be and you're not there? How do you deal with that?
So I learned the really, really hard way. When I was in Africa, sort of halfway through the rally, I got off course and I just thought, there was like. We came out onto this big open lake bed, and there were a lot of faint tracks everywhere. And I thought, well, if I can just sort of follow an average cap heading for 25 kilometers, I'll be able to see the fuel stop and I'll be okay. I rode 25 kilometers and there was nothing. I had 360 degrees of absolutely nothing except for a flat lake bed. And that day I lost about 2.5 hours trying to find the fuel stop. So ever since that day, I've strongly focused on, if I make a mistake, you're better off to just go back and correct it. It's going to be so much quicker. And so that's what I did at NORRA. If I wasn't sure about something, I'd just turn around, go back, verify that I was correct, and away I'd go. But the worst thing you can do is the snowball effect, trying to, because you don't want to lose time, so you don't want to go backwards. So you keep pushing forward But in doing that, you're just getting more and more and more lost.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, if things don't make sense in the road book, there's a couple of different things you can try. But at the end of the day, the best thing to do is find the highest bit of ground right up there and see what the other guys are doing.
So. Spy on them from afar.
yeah. Well, you'll see guys do that in Dakar. Mm-hmm. Quintanilla did it in I think it was last year's Dakar.
Yeah.
So
go up.
There's everyone's got little tricks, and there's different things that everyone does, but you sort of figure out your own little system after time, and unfortunately, you've got to make mistakes to figure that out, but that's all part of the learning curve. So, that's what rally's about.
Exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, and I mean, it's not like you were in the middle of nowhere, 360 degrees of nothing, but somebody in the organization actually knew where you were. Like you were a dot on the radar, and the guys were having a chuckle about it. I'm sure. Like, where did this guy go? But there
were a couple of poor souls that followed my tracks. Mike Johnson was one of them, actually. So that I was kind of relieved on that. When I started just deciding to backtrack, because then I was worried about running out of gas. Mm-hmm. When I was worried about when I started to backtrack, the helicopter actually flew over and started throwing fuel out in Coke bottles to the guys on bikes. So they knew where we were, and they knew that we were low on gas. And I made it to that gas stop on fumes. So I was super lucky on that. But I learned a big lesson that day, and I really want to go back to that race and have another go at it.
Yeah, and so actually, let's talk about that one, because I think that. See, there's an issue. Dakar went to Saudi Arabia after being in South America. And I mean, whichever version of it, the Dakar will always kind of be the Dakar. But the Africa Eco Race took over the old routes, right?
Yeah.
Because it now finishes in Dakar.
Yes. So after there were some issues, I guess some terrorist threats, I think it was in the 90s early 2000s. Dakar moved to South America. It sort of became like a franchise, almost like turned into a big company, and they moved it to South America, and I went down there for years. Once things settled down in Africa, they started the Africa Eco Race. I still think it could have had a lot better name. But I sort of understand what they're doing with the whole eco side of it and stuff. But, I personally, I haven't done Dakar. I know a lot of people who have. I would like to do it one day. Dakar comes with a hefty price to race it. Mm-hmm. And obviously, you got a lot of competition with all these top factory teams and whatnot. For me, I like the Africa race because it's rough, it's tough, and it's the original route where rally racing started. Mm-hmm. So we had our, the opening ceremony in Monaco, and then we got on a boat and sailed across to Morocco, and then we had 11 days of racing. All the way down to Dakar. Mm-hmm. But, during that, it's just, it's hard to even explain the things you see and the places you ride through out there in Western Africa. It is just, it's a wild place. The event doesn't have all the bells and whistles that Dakar does. Like, I'm talking cold showers, questionable toilets. When we did it, we were sleeping in tents, and it was freezing cold for the first week. Mm-hmm. I'd wake up in the morning with a layer of dust all over me. So you sort of, it's hard to get comfortable, but that's why I like it, because it's nasty. And I think that's what rally racing's all about in the essence of it. That's how it all started. It was just guys out in the desert with maps. Mm-hmm. So I really think the Africa Eco Race is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and if they keep doing what they're doing, they'll be a strong competitor to Dakar. And they used to do it at the same time as Dakar, but they've just changed it to October now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to figure out ways to get back there in October and maybe do the Malimoto class.
Mm-hmm.
Just have another crack at it.
Yeah. Well, and that's so. I mean, yeah, going forward to do it with Malimoto. When you rent this last time, how did you, what bike did you take, or how did you do that? Like, how did you set that? How was it possible for you to go?
So last time I went, I was fortunate enough. I got a call from Lyndon Poskett. Mm-hmm. He'd just finished his Races to Places series, riding around the world. And he was putting together a team for sort of the big finale of his show. And it was a team Races to Places. And so he wanted to put a team together. He built 5 rally bikes from the ground up. Mm-hmm. MotorX sponsored them, and a few other companies as well. Mm-hmm. And so, he put this team together, and one of the guys actually got injured a couple of months before the race. Mm-hmm. So he wanted to fill that spot, but he was sort of, I guess, looking for a certain type of personality, and he spoke to a few people, and for whatever reason, my name came up. I got the call. I was actually driving down to race the Baja 1000, and I got a call up from Lyndon, and he asked if I'd like to join the team and go to Africa, and it was two months away, and I was completely unprepared, and I think it was only my 3rd or 4th ever rally race, and I'm a pretty adventurous guy, so I was just like, yep, let's do it. So
nice.
So away we went, and it was quite good too, because I don't know if you've seen it, but on YouTube, it's called the Race to Dakar 2020. Mm-hmm. So there's a full series on there. I think there's 20 episodes. So, it's kind of cool to have something like that you can look back on in years to come, and show your kids or whatever. And so that was a cool part of it. But I think just really wanted to go and race the original Dakar route and ride along that beach into Dakar. And Mike Johnson was going there too, so I had to go and keep him on his toes the whole time.
I know it's you, Mo, the Pearson brothers, and Mike Johnson. That there's never a dull moment in the bivouac. There's always something. No. We're
always at each other, especially me and Jim Pearson. We're always playing tricks on each other. So putting little sticker notes on each other's road books in the morning and stuff like that. So it makes it good fun. You can sort of get under the other guy's skin a little bit, and But when we're out there racing, it's if we're lost or whatever, we're all there to help each other out at the end of the day. But it's just good to have a bit of camaraderie and give each other shit.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. And it is, I mean, and I've said this a lot of times on the show, but it's literally like, it is a very different kind of vibe in the bivouacs. Like if you go to any Baja race, it is very different. It's every team. That team's over there. That team's over there. They're watching what everybody's doing. They're saying, okay, well, is that a beer can? Do we need to rat him out to the organization? Did he travel 6 feet backwards on that's, you can't, like, it's very different in a bivouac.
Yeah, it's very serious in that kind of racing. And I agree. The thing with rally racing is everyone wants to help everyone out. So, if someone needs parts, you'll help them out as much as you can, or you'll stop what you're doing and help a guy work on his bike just so we can start the next day. It's got this feeling of everyone needs to be on that start line the next morning, no matter what. So, that's definitely one of the coolest things about rally racing, is just how willing everyone is to help out everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good.
Yeah, and you're not like, I mean, it doesn't matter because the great equalizer is the navigation.
Yeah.
So, it's not like, it's not, you don't have two fast guys worried about it because you both know that they're both fast, but they have navigation's going to even things out no matter what. Yeah,
exactly. For the most part. So, you can have a guy super fast, but if you can't navigate, then, he'll keep blowing corners and you'll just cruise along behind and, you'll see their dust off in the distance going the wrong way. So, anything can happen out there. And, in standard desert racing, you could have a 1 hour lead. And unless there's a crash, they're generally going to maintain that lead.
Mm-hmm.
In rally, they can get muddled up and quite easily lose 10, 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, like that. So, you see it in the Dakar all the time. The leaders will, switch back and forth so often just because of tricky navigation. It's so, anything can happen.
Yeah. And it is, I mean, and you pay the price because to make up 20 minutes at speed and then not make a mistake at the very next waypoint because you're trying to ride to make up those 20 minutes that you've got penalty or, whatever, because each organization has a little bit different of a penalty.
Yeah.
So, So you're better off slowing down.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, you sort of, like you really got to pick your stages and try and figure out what's coming up ahead. And, I tried to do that in the NORRA. One day I slowed right down. I thought I'll let the other guys lead off. But it was a mistake because then I was just trapped in dust on a super rocky road all morning. And actually the guy in front of me, he had a deer run out in front of him. So, I thought I was being smart, but it was just, it didn't work in my favor at all.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I guess there's got to be like a deciding point. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to hang back and not navigate as hard, but at some point, you can out navigate the guy in front of you. And then at a even if it is a slightly faster pace, but it's still conservative for you. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lot of strategy now you see in the Dakar too, guys all intentionally back off. Like I saw one day last year, Daniel Sanders stopped before the finish and for 4 minutes, and that was intentional so he wouldn't lead out the next day.
Mm-hmm.
He put him in 6 or 7. So he might only lose a couple of minutes that day, but it puts him in a better position the next day. If he's in 6th or 7th, he's got those 6 guys in front of him who are going to figure out the navigation before he even gets there.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to spend time trying to figure it out. And by the time they know where to go, he just rolls up and makes up all that time. So I don't think there's strategy like that in what we have here in North America. But definitely in the bigger races, you're starting to see that now. It's becoming like this game that they're playing, the top guys. So I'm sure it can be pretty frustrating if you get caught on the wrong side of it.
Yeah, exactly. The Dakar swing.
Yeah.
And
we've seen it the past couple of years. So I think it's something that's just going to become strategy, and it's going to get worse and worse, which is kind of unfortunate because, I think it should be every guy out there doing their best. And
I think they, I want to say, what was this last rally that they did? Was it the Morocco Desert Challenge? It was the second race of the series, or was it Abu Dhabi?
Abu Dhabi.
It was Abu Dhabi. They did something different for, I believe it was for the prologue and stage 1, where I think there was a multiplier, like they doubled the time.
All right.
So between, like, if you lost a second, it was actually like you were losing 2. If you lost a minute, you were losing 2 minutes.
Okay. Huh.
So they made it more difficult to do that. I think they might have effectively put a stop to that swing.
Okay. Well, it'll be interesting to see if Dakar starts doing that as well.
Yeah, because I agree with you. While I agree there's strategy to it, it also sucks to to basically see these guys, like come to a halt.
Yeah.
And sandbag, because there's no other way of that is sandbagging.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yes. Hopefully they do figure it out, because, there's nothing better than, the top 10 guys just going hell for leather, trying to beat each other outright. But, at the end of the day, they've all got big sponsors and whatnot, and a lot of people to keep happy. So it's totally understandable.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, each one is obviously trying to better their chances. And that's just one of the many strategies, because even then, they could be following the guy in front of them to help, if they know that person is a stronger navigator, they might get a tow for this section,
Yeah. Yeah. They'll literally stay behind them just to help them out. If, their teammates got a decent lead, then, and say they bend a brake rotor or something like that, then it's the guy who's behind. It's his job to stop and give him parts off his bike so he can keep his lead. Mm-hmm. So it's this more sort of team strategy now.
Yeah. And that's true. I've seen it, but I think they made more of a big deal of it before. I remember watching the BMW and the KTM teams is this is the leader, Petter Hansel, and here's, or, whoever it was, Coma, I forget who it was, but basically it's this is a B rider. So he's going to give him his rear wheel so he can keep going. And then he's going to wait for the next guy. And basically the last guy in the line is waiting for the parts truck.
Yeah, exactly. And they used to do that with wheels too, but they've actually stopped that. This year in Dakar, or maybe it was the year before, on the marathon stage, Daniel Sanders buckled his front wheel. Mm-hmm. But normally, whoever was sort of doing the worst out of that team would give him their front wheel. Mm-hmm. It was the same day, I think, Toby got the big slash in his rear tire and he had to zip tie it up. Mm-hmm. But in the past, they just would have swapped that out, but you're not allowed to now. So,
gotcha.
So that sort of makes it interesting too.
It does, because I think that's part of the whole, with the whole marathon stage, and I'll go back here really quick. So for those playing the home game, marathon stages are typically the ones where you're going to travel to a distance, a remote bivouac with no support there, and you have limited resources. And then you ride that same bike after you do your limited, work to it back out to your team. So things like that, right? I mean, it kind of was an unfair advantage, honestly. You could say safety, you could say all of that, but at the end of the day, all that meant is that if you rode fast and beat up your bike, you knew you had a teammate that was going to give up their good parts.
Yeah, exactly. And now they've sort of put a stop to that, which is good. It does sort of, I guess, promote slowing down and looking after your bike. But at the same time, it can also be incredibly dangerous. Mm-hmm. They put restrictions on tires at Dakar now. And, even like I spoke about before with Toby Price having a big cut in his tire. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, he's still got to try and win that race. And he's got to race at high speed on that tire. Mm-hmm. And that can be, that can become life-threatening. So, there needs to be some sort of happy medium within that, I think. But
yeah, everybody's going to be racing 250 two-strokes next year.
Yeah, it's easy to have an opinion while you're sitting at home watching the tracking on your app anyway. So maybe if I get to Dakar one year, I'll come up with a better idea.
And I, in talking to Skylar House, I think he had just came back or had recently come back from the Dakar. It was something that was brought up was the braking. And I didn't really even think about it. And you go, well, a worn out tire doesn't stop the bike. So forget about going fast, because you can take forever to speed up. You just got to throttle manage it.
Yeah.
Slowing down, though, you only have so much you can do. And on a tire that's worn out, you can't slow down. And we know what the terrain is like there. I mean, it's wide open.
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly.
So I would agree. I don't, tires isn't the way. I understand what they're trying to do, but tires was definitely not the way to do it.
Yeah, I think they've just got to, admit, they've made the engine size smaller over the years. They're down to 450s. Like, what are they going to do next? Put everyone on 250s? Like, at the end of the day, this is, this is a type of racing that people choose to do because they love it. Unfortunately, there is injury with that, but I don't think they're really going to slow guys down.
No, and I mean, it's honestly, I just see it as like Formula One. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
no problem. You're going to reduce the engine size, not a problem. Well, we'll just make it so this motor revs up to 20,000.
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll gear it accordingly.
Yeah.
Then they'll mandate the sprocket sizes, and then they'll come up with an engine that goes 25,000. Whatever. I mean, they're going to figure it out. So, I
think it'll get to the point where if they keep putting in stupid rules like that, people are going to start moving away from that and going to races like the Africa race, where they're, where they stick to the original rules and, don't want to keep the original fundamentals of rally. So, and that's what's appealing to me too.
Well, yeah,
except for the shitty bivouacs, but
Well, what they should be worried about is, wait, you mean if I skip the Dakar, I can race the rest of the year with that budget?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what they should be worried about.
Yeah, and it's pretty heartbreaking too, because I know guys who could compete, in the top 10 at Dakar, but it's just they haven't got the funding for it, and it's it's sad to see. Yeah. So I wish it was more affordable for other people to get involved in, but. Yeah. That's not going to be the case. So, I guess that's where GoFundMe comes in, eh?
Yeah, exactly. The GoFundMe is all of the... And it's cool to see that because the community and the people outside and the fans do rally around those kind of things to help people get over to the Dakar.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And, look at guys like Mason, got him a shot and he did really well. And I think he impressed a lot of people. So... he's on his way to winning the Junior Rally World Cup or just a Rally World Cup. But so hopefully he gets that and does well and gets picked up and goes from there. So definitely, these people who donate to causes like that and help out, they definitely do open doors for people. So it's much appreciated by everyone.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. And I mean, and that's as more people get into it, they're going to realize, and that's where I think all of these smaller rallies and smaller events are going to be so much more popular and are really actually going to help pave the way to the guys, like bringing in that new breed. And honestly, I mean, and a couple more things to wrap it up. But so this year, remember, they had one of the stages that they ended up cutting short at the gas stop after the top riders had gone, but then I guess a bunch of riders showed up after and they were complaining about how rough the course was. And it was on the day that they split it up and they ran the first few kilometers that the cars had ran the previous day. Yeah,
I think that was the same day that Daniel Sanders had obliterated all that rough stuff and had a good lead, and then they cancelled it at the gas stop because the cars had been there the day before and it was too rough. I personally thought that was a bit of a joke. Like, this is motorbike racing. It's meant to be rough.
Yeah, and I mean, and that was something, in talking with Mason and a couple of the guys, they're all like, this is no worse than a best in the desert, Nevada race. Actually, it's not even that bad compared to those. So,
if you've ever dealt with the FIM, I won't go into details, but they can be a little soft at times.
Yeah, I agree, and I agree with what Daniel said. I think he called everybody a bunch of princesses, but but I think that there is some truth to what he said. Is that, hey, nobody's telling you to hold it wide open.
Yeah, exactly. If it's rough, then you ride at your limit and you get through it. And if you get beat, you get beat.
Yeah,
but that's racing. They shouldn't neutralize the stage because it's too rough. That's and then that goes against everything racing is about in this sport.
Yeah, I thought that's what the Dakar was supposed to be. And then, then it's like, Yeah, at the gas stop, but then immediately after the gas stop, a few kilometers past, they were going to switch to their own route again, where it had been untouched. So it's like you made it this far.
It doesn't even make sense, that does it? Because the top guys ride through all the rough stuff, and then they neutralize that, and then they started again after it. So, I've had that once in the Africa race. About halfway through, they neutralized the stage, but that was only because they didn't have helicopters available, because there were a lot of injuries, unfortunately, that day, and there was a windstorm. So because of that, they were forced to neutralize the second half of the stage for safety. So I totally understand that, but neutralizing a stage because it's rough is pretty soft.
And there was some other right on the organization side, and we don't know, like, it's hard to tell how true it was, right? But they were talking about, well, there was a lot of medical calls, and there was a lot of, like, okay, well, stop everybody, hold the stage to a certain point, get some resources back up and running, and let's keep going.
Yeah, exactly. They could have just made the fuel stop longer, like added, an hour or so to it, and gone from there. But and that's sort of one of the things that I'm turned off about for doing Dakar, is just all the sort of rules and regulations that are in place there. And like I said earlier, that I think it's a lot more relaxed at the Africa race, and talking to guys who have raced that route in the past. I was talking to Jimmy Lewis down at the awards night of the NORRA 1000, and he himself said, he's like, it's just Dakar's a different animal now. Like, back when he raced it through Western Africa, it was just this crazy wild monster with soft dunes like you've never experienced. And it's, I don't know, I hope more people do go and do the Africa race, especially the average guy. If you're going to go and spend all that money on Dakar, you could, I think you may have a lot more fun experience and save yourself a bit of cash by going and doing the Africa Eco race.
Yeah. And especially market. I mean, to me, I see it now as like, this is the OG Dakar. It's like the Dakar just changed its name.
Yeah.
Because now you're running what they used to run, which was where it all started.
Yeah, exactly. So, like I said, my plan's to try and get back there in October. We'll see, run some tours and save some money. And I'd like to get back there. There's Baturi, who won it when I did it. They're doing it on the Yamaha T7s, adventure bikes. And Petrucci, he's doing it on the Ducati Desert X.
Yes, finally.
So I'd kind of love just to go there and do it in the Mali Moto class and just sort of, I got lucky enough to beat Petrucci a couple of times, but I'd just like to go back there and, I don't know, just be at that racing against, guys like that on bikes like that. I'd take that. It'd be pretty hilarious watching them ride those bikes through those soft dunes, I tell you.
Well, and that's the thing, is like they used to ride bikes that heavy through there, and now they only have more horsepower. And I want the big bikes back. I think that's there's a lot of stuff coming, and I think this big bike twin market is so hot that more organizations are going to open up to that.
We have seen it in the Best in the Desert series. They brought in an adventure class, a couple of even the enduro races up here in British Columbia. They've got adventure bike enduro races. So you never know, they may bring in a rally, large twin cylinder category in the future. Africa race actually has one. But I'm all for adventure bikes. A lot of people give them shit, but you can ride a trail on a 500 and then go and or on a 300 two-stroke, and then go and try and do it on a 1090. It's a whole new challenge. So, and the adventure bikes these days are pretty dialed in. So,
especially the 790, I think that's of them. I mean, right now I think they're the game in town. It's the 890s and the T7s.
Yeah, I did like the T7s up until NORRA. One of them snapped in halfway on day 4.
Yeah,
so the frame broke in half through the whoops. No, actually the frame broke in half, and then I think he got in a crash the day after that. But yeah, it was interesting seeing how that bike handled Baja, which Baja, I guess, won that one. But yeah.
And I mean, and it'll win again to any manufacturer. It just, you learn what you need to do to make them Baja proof, and then,
Yeah, and I think as a rider too, you got to know the capabilities of your bike too. Yeah. So, if you can sort of get it all dialed in and have a good race and slow down when you need to slow down, I think, I've actually got a couple of guys who want to do the NORRA 1000 next year on adventure bikes. So I hope they do. Yeah.
I mean, if the Vespas can do it, I'm sure we can.
Those Vespas, those guys are the real hero. They're actually the Vespas, and there was one guy on a 3-wheeler 2-stroke, and he did 3 top ends throughout the race. That guy is the real hero.
I saw that thing.
That guy.
Yeah, 250R.
Yeah.
So, speaking of epic rides, to wrap this thing up, what's the longest ride you've ever done?
So I rode a KLR 650 from Vancouver to Argentina over 14 months. So me and some buddies, one day I was just sort of looking at a map and I was like, oh, that's all connected. And then I actually went back home to Australia for Christmas, and I was sitting around at the Christmas dinner and I was like, oh, I think I might ride a motorbike all the way down to Argentina, and everyone kind of laughed at me. And as soon as they sort of said it wasn't possible and laughed, it just kind of lit a fire, and I was like, I'll show you. So as soon as I got back to Vancouver, I bought a bike, and then talked 3 friends into coming along with me, and I think it was 6 months later we set off. We did, I think I ended up putting about 22,000 kilometres on my bike. And rode all the way down, camped all through the US and Baja. That was my first ever Baja experience. And I've actually got a funny story. We were riding down the coast south of Ensenada and went up like a little hill, and a rock kicked up and crushed the wire on the kickstand and cut the bike out on my friend's KLR. So we're sitting there fixing that, and these guys pull up, all on Hondas, and they're sort of helping us get it fixed, and we're all chatting and stuff like that. And we got a few photos. It wasn't until years later I looked at that photo, and it was Quinn Cody, it was Malcolm Smith, it was, I think, Johnny Campbell was there, and it was just a bunch of these top, I think it might have even been the early days of that Rip to Cabo or something. Yeah. But yeah, it was all these top, desert races, and we just had no idea. So it was pretty cool to look back on. But so we camped all through Baja and then Central America. It was cheap enough, so we stayed in hostels and whatnot. And once we got to South America, one guy got low on money, so he sold his bike and went home, and the other 2 guys, they beelined it for Argentina. We didn't have any GPSs or maps either. I actually, before we left, I bought a map of each country, thinking that'd be enough to get me through, but it definitely wasn't. So learned to speak Spanish quick, but yeah, to make a long story short, I ended up doing from Colombia all through South America alone. And yeah, it was probably the greatest time of my life. Just, no maps, kind of naive, no idea. And yeah, just get to a town and ask for directions and ride that way. So got in some pretty hairy situations got shaken down by the police a few times, especially in Mexico. Yeah. had a gun pulled on me, got rammed by a vehicle at a toll booth, but then, you know, I also had some of the best days riding I've ever had. So, yeah.
It was a risk and reward.
Yeah. And I strongly suggest, you know, any young guys in their early 20s go and do that, because, you know, when you're out there alone, there's some in the middle of Peru or wherever you might be, and, you know, it starts to get dark and you got to camp out on the side of the road in a foreign place. You learn a lot about yourself and your limits, that's for sure. So I think it definitely made me a better person.
Yeah. Once you leave the comforts, and I mean, and it's not like you could just ride up to the next town or you know, there's nothing.
No, I didn't even know. It's funny because I'd pull up to a place on the bike and I'd be like, you know, by then I'd sort of learned a bit of Spanish, and I'd sort of ask people, oh, how long to the next town? And they, you know, I had a rule, so I'd always ask 3 or 4 people and figure out the average, because one person would say, you know, 5 hours. The next person would say, oh, on that bike you'll be there in an hour. And so you never really knew. Or there'd be roads just completely gone. And I had a pretty interesting situation in Colombia where I'd ridden down sort of into the Amazon side of the Colombia, which is heavily guarded by the ELN, which is a guerrilla group.
Mm-hmm.
And there's people stopping me, telling me to get out of there. There's bandits, but it was to get in Colombia. You've sort of got the coast, and then you've got flatland, mountains, big huge valley, mountains, and then into the Amazon. So for me to get to roughly where I was, but over the mountains, it was a 21-hour turnaround. And that just wasn't an option for me. So, and the road had washed out. So I spent a day and a half riding through these crazy mountain roads through the jungle of Colombia by myself with no maps, just coming to, you know, Y's in the road and picking left or right. And somehow, I don't even know how, but somehow I got through it all. I managed to get gas right at the last minute from these little towns in the middle of nowhere, and I made it back to pavement a day and a half later. But I was terrified the entire time. But now that I look back, that was one of the coolest times I ever had.
Yeah. What was the? I'm trying to picture what the feeling was after that long of a stint in the middle of nowhere, and then to see highway.
I got to a town called Popoyan. I got to the highway and I actually got off and screamed in my helmet. I was that happy to see pavement. I was like so happy I just survived it. You know, there's a lot of sort of guerrilla forces in those areas back then, and I saw pavement and I was just ecstatic. You know, I'm not a very emotional guy, but that got me pretty pumped to see pavement. And then I rode to a town called, I think it was called Popoyan or something,
mm-hmm.
and pulled in there, and they had like this, I saw one fancy hotel, so I pulled in there, and it was like the first hot shower I'd had in weeks. And they actually, when I got there, they sat like a busboy outside of my room on a chair 24/7. And if I wanted to go across the road to get ice cream and get money out from the bank machine, and this guy had to come with me everywhere. So I don't know if it was a bit of a sketchy area or what, but I kind of felt like royalty. I had a hot shower and a little a guy who'd do anything for me, and
liaison.
He'd go off, and, you know, if I wanted food, I'd give him money and he'd head off and get food and whatever. And so no, that was good. And then, but the next day I actually crossed into Ecuador, and that's where I got rammed by a car at a toll booth, and then there was a giant riot broke out all around me. So it was very short lived.
Yeah.
So,
polar opposites.
Yeah, I could probably fill in an entire podcast just on that story, just on that ride.
Yeah, we could always. Well, I still, my goal is to still be able to figure this out, to record something actually in a bivouac, sitting around talking to all you guys.
I'm sure you could. That'd be a way to do it. It'd be pretty funny. You could do it at Sonora.
Yeah.
But you're going to have lots of options in October. I think there's like 5 races going on in that 1 month. So
I know. October is rally month.
yeah, it's going to be wild. So it's going to be hard to choose.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've got to look at the calendar and see what I can schedule in. But at this point, I'm hoping I'll be in Africa, but we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's, I hadn't thought about that. So they moved the Africa Eco Race to that too, then.
Yeah.
Okay. So now that's, 4 rallies. I think Baja Rally opens the month, then it's Morocco, and then it's Sonora.
And then there's a NORRA 500 as well.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, NORRA 500, and then, Africa race as well.
Oh, that's going to be fun.
Yeah, decisions.
Yeah, exactly. It's only money, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I better start running some tours, I guess.
Yeah, there you go. There we go. Start up the money machine.
Yeah, that's it.
Nice. Very nice. Well, awesome. Well, I'm going to have to figure out how to get up to Canada. Well, the girlfriend and I want to do some traveling, and we were talking about that, like, plane rides and what's a decent plane ride, and then pick locations based on that plane ride. And then Canada was one of the ones that came up. So. Yeah,
well, like, I came here for a 3-month holiday 14 years ago. So it's, I can vouch for it. That's for sure.
Yeah. And then here we are.
Yeah, here we are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, her and I, we enjoy the outdoors and like, I've just, everything I've ever seen, I don't know that there isn't a place in Canada that isn't picturesque.
Yeah. Right? No, if you've been to Saskatchewan, that's...
oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So there is an area.
In Saskatchewan, if your dog runs away, you can see it running for 3 days.
Oh, that's like Texas.
Yeah. Except Texas, someone would shoot it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But, you're probably true. That's probably right.
But no, it's if you're ever looking for a trip, grab a bike and coming up, I'll be happy to show you around.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, no, definitely. Problem. And like you said, or maybe you could get a few guys together. We'll go out and book a tour with you and go explore, go get lost in the backcountry.
Yeah, for sure.
That'd be awesome.
It's a pretty cool experience. So.
Yeah, I hope so. Well, if you pick Baja, whether that be Sonora or Baja Rally, I'm sure I'll see you down there, and hopefully before then. Yeah, be a good time.
Yeah, I'll have to look at the calendar and write some stuff in, but I'm sure I'll see you before the end of the year down there. So if I know you're heading down to the Baja Rally training this weekend, so stir up Dave Pearson for me and tell Mo Hart to stop breaking the beads on his rear tire. Every single race, that guy blows a moose out.
Yeah, that's true. I come to think about it, that is kind of a record going.
Yeah.
But he's a trooper. He's definitely one of the guys that does not say no to a start line.
Yeah, no, Mo's a great guy. He's good.
So nice. Well, excellent. Yeah, I'll make sure to ruffle some feathers for you.
Yeah, no worries.
Get them warmed up for you.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, thanks for the call, and
yeah, I appreciate you taking the time and talking to us, and and I'll drop some links for mbmadventures.com. So if anybody's got questions or wants to see, I mean, even just to check out the page, I mean, the pictures that you got up there are awesome.
Yeah, we've got a promo video on there as well you can watch, or go on YouTube and just look up Mountain View Motorcycle Adventures, or hit me up through Instagram, or email, which is just matt@mvmadventures.com. And that's M for Michael. A lot of people think it's an N because of my accent.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I got to elaborate on that.
Mountain View Motorcycle Adventures. Got it. Yeah, cool. I'll put it. I'll drop the email address. Well, I'll drop the email address, and then the website and Instagram in the description. So if anybody's interested in looking it up, and should be awesome. Well, sweet. Well, enjoy your evening. I don't know what time it is there where you're at. But.
It's 8:30. I've actually, you'll probably laugh at this, I've actually got moose in the slow cooker. So I swear to God, I have moose in the slow cooker. So
Nice.
I got to go tend to that. But hey, come to Canada on a tour. We'll give you some moose.
There we go.
That's not a selling point.
You'll get to see it and then you'll eat it.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
So,
Well, sir, enjoy.
cool. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
See you later.
Yeah, we'll see you soon. See ya.
Thanks, buddy.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye. All right. So that was Matt Sutherland, Mountain View Motorcycle Adventures, rally racer, and world traveler now. I mean, you get into rally and that's kind of what ends up happening. Well, and then there's the adventure on the KLR 650, which I didn't say, why would you pick a KLR 650? But in talking to one of our previous guests, the KLR 650 is kind of a popular bike. Everybody's got parts for it. So I think that is definitely a battle tank of a bike, and you can do a lot of stuff. I'm sure the local convenience store sells sprocket countershaft seals for them. I mean, they're that popular, so you never know. Probably is one of the better bikes to pick just for the availability of parts and simplicity of the machine. But yeah, this isn't a KLR commercial. So yeah, anyway, but that is a wrap for this week. That was awesome. So Matt Sutherland, I met him at Baja Rally, competing down there, and as my time as race director and working with Rally Comp. And always a really good time and talking to those guys. And there's always, the ruffling of the feathers and the giving each other shit in the bivouacs. And so I think that was it was the highlight of going to these events and talking to these guys and just being the fly on the wall and listening to the guys gas each other over, waypoints they missed and trails and the hairy rides and then the close calls and all of that stuff. So it was always good. It was always a fun time. And I'm looking forward to getting back down there. We've got that event this weekend with the American Rally Originals and Baja Rally down in San Quintin for a 3-day training event. So looking forward to that. I'll come back with some more stories on that, or don't be surprised if we get a remote episode in this week. Don't forget, we do have Pete Day from Moscow Moto coming up here shortly. You guys will be listening to this episode tonight, Monday night. And then I think for this Sunday, we're going to have the episode with Pete from Moscow Moto air. So you guys can make sure you tune in for that one. And then we'll see. I got a few more guys lined up, and we'll release the order of dates here shortly. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad to be doing these in the bivouacs again and talking to people. There's so many people in the industry that are really ready to talk about rally raid and stuff like that. So we got to keep the ball rolling. You guys heard it on the episode, and it's true. Is the sport is growing. There's more things to do now rally wise. If you need training, if you need racing, if you want to go racing and you're just tired of doing the training or don't want to know, or you want to commit to something and say, you know what, that's going to be my first rally. Now I got to get ready for it. Get it done. A shout out to Dave Black from Couch to Dakar on his riding. He's posted some videos this week of his progression and how he is riding now after only a little over a year on a dirt bike, taking classes from Jimmy Lewis and some other guys and doing things like trials riding and things. His riding in those videos is very noticeable. There's a very marked difference. I saw him a few months ago in Vegas before his second round of classes, and I could tell the confidence was up and the riding was there, and so it's there. But it's in a year. So guys, if you're looking at rally raid and you want to get into rally raid, you could be doing this next year. And it just takes some simple steps. So I have a feeling what we're going to end up doing is we're going to revisit this whole getting started in rally raid. In the early episodes, that's what we started with. We were talking a lot about getting started in rally, taking those first steps. I think we're due for a recap and for that game plan. And hopefully we get, because we've got a ton of new listeners, the reach and audience that I'm absolutely blown away. And I'm very appreciative of everybody that's chimed in and sent me ideas and contacts with who to talk to. All of these things, I'm absolutely stoked. The guys that are supporting the channel, David Pearson, the American Rally Originals, those guys, Moscow Moto coming up, Maxima, all of these guys that are helping support this channel, support this podcast. It's a big thank you to you guys, and I really appreciate the help. I cannot forget to mention Visa and MasterCard for everything that they've done, including making sure my interest rates were always charged on time, and reminding me of my payments. So I definitely appreciate all of the help and everything, and all these people. So I'm looking forward to it. We've got a lot more episodes. This is episode 70. We are exactly 30 episodes away. We're going to be 100 episodes deep on this, so looking forward to it. But anyway, with that being said, hope everybody has a good week. We will see you guys for the next episode coming up. All right, that is a wrap for the Chasing Waypoints podcast this week. Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like what you heard. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and a bunch of others. Also, follow us on social media. You can find us on Facebook under Chasing Waypoints, Instagram, Chasing Waypoints _official, and of course, the YouTube under Chasing Waypoints. Hope everybody has a good week. We will see you guys for the next episode. Remember, shiny side up, and don't forget to tag us. We want to see where you guys are riding and what you guys are up to. Have a great week.